Verse 7. Secretly taking others' sufferings upon myself. Whether directly or indirectly, I shall offer help and happiness to all my mothers, and secretly take it upon myself, all their pains and suffering. This verse contains the paramount pith instruction on Bodhicitta. All Mahayana practitioners, whether focusing on Sutrayana or Tantrayana teachings, should practice this instruction. Without embodying it, we cannot call ourselves Mahayana practitioners. The White Lotus, the great biography of Shakyamuni Buddha, recounts that Buddha Shakyamuni discarded self-attachment and benefited sentient beings over hundreds and thousands of eons. We, too, should follow the Buddha's steps. This is something we should seriously reflect on. Spiritual practice is actually simple. Just follow the Buddha's footsteps and practice according to his teachings. In the age of Dharma decline, we should not casually carry out our study. What we are doing here, teaching and learning the Dharma, exactly follows the Buddha's steps without any other purpose. Don't stray from the spiritual journey. I hope you take a direct path and don't seek too many teachings. For example, you can meditate on the 8 verses for training the mind daily to cultivate bodhicitta, and in particular, patience. This verse says, I shall secretly take all suffering of sentient beings upon myself. Can we embody this spiritual state? You can strive to cultivate this mindset through daily practice. When you see others suffering, help them secretly. Secretly means that when we help others, it doesn't matter whether they know it or not. It is not easy to do so. We tend to tell others what we have done for them. This indicates that we still seek rewards and worry that others may not know. It doesn't matter if others are aware of our altruistic activities or not. Of course, when they know it, they might arouse faith or engage in spiritual practice. Sharing what we do is not boasting about our merits, but fostering their gratitude. It is not because we need their gratitude. Instead, gratitude can motivate them to learn the Dharma and progress towards liberation. Such an intention is appropriate. If you worry about others not noticing your help, as secular people might think, you are seeking rewards. When we genuinely serve sentient beings, it doesn't matter if they are aware of it or not. Sometimes, when we help sentient beings, they may not know it, but that doesn't stop us from practicing altruism. Langri Tangpa's 8 verses for training the mind is easy to understand literally, but very difficult to apply in practice. Now that we have received this pith instruction, we should use it in our daily lives as much as possible. If we cannot master this practice, no matter how much we learn and meditate on the great perfection, it will be in vain. Therefore, we must develop faith in this teaching and practice it. It is a pith instruction of the Bodhisattva practice. As Mahayana practitioners, on the basis of cultivating bodhicitta, we should also frequently pray to our Guru. This afternoon, I explained to a layperson the importance of prostrations and reciting the fourfold refuge. Those who lack faith need to recite the fourfold refuge. When prostrating, the most important element is the field of refuge, including the lineage gurus, yidams, 3 jewels, and dharma protectors. By clearly visualizing the field of refuge before prostrating, we can receive blessings from the lineage, gurus, yidams, and the 3 jewels. If you take refuge sincerely, each prostration becomes meaningful, and you will absorb the teachings easily. Prostrating is not a physical exercise. Without clearly visualizing the field of refuge, it is not very meaningful. Some of you might be great masters and bodhisattvas. No bodhisattva in history has ever prayed to ordinary beings. Please pray to His Holiness Jigme Pangsok Rinpoche more often, and the Guru's blessings will spontaneously enter your heart. In this way, you can comprehend all the Sutrayana and Tantrayana teachings, transform all appearances of phenomena into the path, and awaken the nature of the mind. Without the Guru's blessings, it is impossible to realize the primordial nature of the mind. It is clearly stated that without the Guru's blessings, it is impossible to realize the true nature of the mind. When no Buddha appears in the world, Pratyeka Buddhas can realize no self in person, which is already remarkable. However, without the Guru's blessings, nobody can see the true nature of the mind because it is profound. The Guru's guidance is essential for reaching that state. It is a matter of faith, and the so-called Guru's blessings arise from our faith in them. When our faith is strong enough, realization is effortless. However, if doubt clouds our minds, it becomes difficult. When giving the transmission and teachings of Manjushri Great Perfection, His Holiness Jigme Pangsok Rinpoche said, "When you pray, by perceiving your root guru as no different from Manjushri, you will realize the great perfection." When praying, we should see our guru and the yidam as the same. The excellence of the instruction revealed in this verse lies in that it teaches us to exchange our happiness for the suffering of others. The exchanging oneself for others here differs slightly from the one presented in the 5th verse. Verse 5 is a practice on Bodhicitta, but this instruction is a practice on the 4 immeasurables. The 4 immeasurables are the foundation of Bodhicitta. If we build this foundation well, the other teachings will be easier to master. As is stated in the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, if all the mothers who have loved me since beginningless time are suffering, what is the use of my happiness? So, to liberate all sentient beings, I shall cultivate Bodhicitta. This is the practice of a Bodhisattva. All sentient beings have been my mothers since beginningless time. When they were my mother, they loved me as much as my mother in this life does. To make sure that their child has enough to eat, they would rather starve themselves. When their child is ill, they lose their appetite for food and drink, and if possible, they would exchange their own life for the cure of their child. Not only do human mothers act in this way, but even ferocious beasts, such as lions and tigers, are full of love for their children. All sentient beings who have been our mothers are experiencing the suffering of samsara or even the unbearable torment of hell. As their children, how can we seek only our own happiness or liberation, as a Hinayana follower might? What is the point of such a practice? Therefore, we must offer all our happiness with great compassion, directly or indirectly, to all our loving mothers, without the slightest trace of miserliness. If we are not able to do so now, we should aspire to dedicate all our happiness to our parents since beginningless time, all sentient beings, and vow to benefit them to the best of our ability. This is an indirect offering. What is a direct offering? I think life release is a direct way to benefit sentient beings. As for indirect offerings, being a vegetarian and protecting animals' natural habitats are ways of saving lives. Now is a time when life release is needed to benefit sentient beings. Hence, each of us should not only engage in life release, but also encourage others to do so as much as possible. Some monastics often release lives, and the merits and future fruits are inconceivable. Life release is different from other virtuous activities. Doing other wholesome deeds with an impure intention brings small karmic rewards. However, life release brings unfailing karmic rewards, even if done with impure motives or wrong views. Many scriptures illustrate this point. You can refer to the merits of saving lives for more information. Life release directly benefits sentient beings. Our Buddhist Academy engages in this virtuous activity every year. Nowadays, there are significant issues with life release. Many people consider life release meritorious and cling to it. Saving lives certainly generates immense merit, but we may not necessarily achieve the desired effect. For example, if the water is contaminated, releasing fish into it would harm their lives rather than save them. If they are taken for cooking, their lives may end quickly with a single cut. In comparison to painfully dying in poisoned water, which option would be more bearable? Nowadays, there are polluted rivers everywhere. So, where can you put the fish? This is a question to consider. We should release lives with caution because the population is dense. I don't advocate for excessive life release. We can do it moderately. Some people, upon hearing about the great merits of life release, solely focus on that and neglect their spiritual practice. This is a problem in today's society. The best way to save beings' lives is to reduce livestock farming and be a vegetarian. If there is no demand for meat, people will naturally stop raising farmed animals. As a result, the livestock industry will decline and more people will engage in vegetable farming. This is the genuine life release. I hope you all generate Bodhicitta, practice diligently, and propagate the Dharma. Actually, propagating the Dharma is not very hard, but you may not have generated the aspiration to do so. The most important way to spread the Dharma is to first embody it yourself. After embodying the teachings, you can gradually perfect yourself while practicing the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. Don't seek fame and fortune, which is the most terrible. If you have such an intention, you are hopeless. Without genuine Bodhicitta, you cannot propagate the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, now we must cultivate ourselves earnestly. It is not difficult to spread the Dharma. You should have heard this saying, a single spark can start a prairie fire. If you devote yourself to Dharma practice, it is not difficult. So, what should we do? I implore you to arouse Bodhicitta. Verse 8. All things are like illusions. I shall learn to keep all these practices, untainted by thoughts of the 8 worldly concerns. May I recognize all things as illusions, and be free from bondage without attachment. May I recognize all things as illusions is on the level of the perfection of wisdom. May all my practices and actions in the past, present and future not be defiled by the 8 worldly concerns, fame or gain. If our minds are tainted by the 8 worldly concerns, even though we practice virtuous deeds, the fruit will not be excellent. Worldly people don't want to let go of the 8 worldly concerns, so they cannot attain the ultimate wisdom or liberation. Many practitioners here listen, meditate, and practice the Dharma humbly and serve the Guru and the 3 jewels conscientiously without seeking fame or material gain. This indicates that they have recognized the harms of the 8 worldly concerns and are striving to detach from them. However, some practitioners are still fond of prestige and self-promotion, which shows their practice is far from enough. They need to deepen their understanding of the harm of the 8 worldly concerns, realign their objectives, and work harder. Once, a patron was going to visit a great Kadampa geshe. Before the patron arrived, the geshe cleaned the shrine room and decorated the Buddha statues. But upon discovering that his motivations were impure, he immediately took a handful of ashes and sprinkled them on the offerings. Later, Padampa Sangye praised that those ashes were the best offering to the Buddha. This is because the geshe had uprooted his worldly concerns and recognized that all phenomena are like dreams and illusions, without inherent existence. If we refer to relevant instructions in the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva, they are the following stanzas. When we encounter pleasing objects, we shall view them as summer rainbows, beautiful but not real, and relinquish craving and attachment. This is the practice of a Bodhisattva. All sufferings are like losing one's child in a dream. By clinging to deluded perceptions as real, we exhaust ourselves. Therefore, we shall view unfavourable circumstances as illusions. This is the practice of a Bodhisattva. All sufferings are like dreaming about losing one's own son. Being attached to illusory things, we tire ourselves. When afflictive emotions like attachment or anger arise, we should examine their nature directly so that we won't be deceived by appearances, freeing ourselves from bondage and progressing to liberation. This verse addresses Dharma practice from the highest perspective, consistent with the teachings in finding comfort and ease in the illusoriness of things. When we recognize that all phenomena are like dreams and illusions, the precious human life we get becomes meaningful,